Happy video day, guys. So for today's video, we're doing another Make Up Your Mind, where I search through my collection and on every brand new eyeshadow palette release that I possibly can, I search through my collection and try to find similar tones to kind of give you guys an idea of what this color story may look like. I also give you guys my thoughts. I tell you guys whether I think it's something that works good together, and also at the end of the video, I make up my mind and decide whether I want to pick up this new release or not. So the Gold Obsessions palette from Huda Beauty is actually going to be an exclusive to Cult Beauty, and it's going to be 27 euros. They haven't announced yet if anything is going to come out in the USA, so I'm not sure if this palette is even going to cross the seas to the USA, but for right now it's going to be in Cult Beauty and it's 27 euros, so that's the information I have on it right now. Guys, from the photographs that they released, this looks like a really cute little palette, and it would be a shame for them not to release this in Sephora eventually. It just is really, really cute. And if this does not come to the United States, then of course this is the perfect time to try to mimic this palette in your collection, kind of get a similar idea. There is some palettes that I believe have a very similar color story, so if you can never get your hands on this palette, there is some palettes that I do think have a very similar vibe either way. So if you guys have not done so already, please don't forget to hit subscribe so you guys can see more of these videos. I did create this type of video for YouTube, and I have been doing it for the past year now. I can't believe it's been one whole year of Make Up Your Mind. So thank you guys so much to my subscribers out there that have loved this series so much. I am so thankful for you guys. And I did do my Insta challenge like I always do, and these are some of the names of people who guessed that this was the palette I was doing this week. Thanks so much for entering, and yeah, let's get into it. I found some interesting things, and let's get into it right now. So okay guys, like always, the first thing that I always do is show you guys the swatches and what I came up with. I think I was able to kind of mimic this palette pretty good, and I have some thoughts on it. I really do have some thoughts, but first let's get into the colors and let's talk about the palettes that I used. So to mimic this palette, I did use the Huda Beauty New Naughty palette. So this is the new one that came out. I used a few colors from there. Natasha Denona's Glam palette gave me a few of the champagne-y looking colors. Celestial Divinity also gave me a lot of the golds and stuff that are in here. And finally, Natasha Denona's gold palette. So now, like always, I always tell you guys, I do sometimes pick more palettes than maybe I have to, just because I try to really get the color story, because I really just want to kind of see what this is going to look like in order for me to really make a good decision on whether I want to buy it or not. So let's start off with the very first color. So the first color I got inside of Natasha Denona's gold palette. I did jump into this color right here. It's called Oro here in the center. So this is that very, very bright gold. Honestly, my least favorite color in the palette, because I'm just like over this color gold. I'm tired of seeing it, and I mean, I could do without ever seeing this color again, to be completely honest. I feel like I have it so many times over in my collection already because so many new launches have released this color. Now in this color story, for what this palette is going to be a gold palette, I think it makes sense. I'm just tired of the color. So if we go on, so the next one, what I did was I jumped into the Huda Beauty Naughty palette, and I jumped into this color called Tantric. So Tantric is right here. It reminds me a lot of the tone that's inside of this new gold palette. It has like almost like a little bit of like a rose. When I was looking at the swatches, what I noticed the most about it was that it didn't look like a flat champagne color. It almost looked like it had a little rose to it. So yeah, that color to me looks very similar to the swatch on the eyes, blended out and all that good stuff. I do think it's going to have a very similar effect. The next one, I jumped into Natasha Denona's Glam palette, and I went into this color called Center Lid right here. This is a very, very pretty, almost like a center lid shade, I guess what they're saying, center lid. It's one of those like brightening shades. You could put it on the center of your lid to kind of do that pop, you know, you can like right there, and it just goes poof, and it makes everything look so beautiful. I do like this color a lot. So far, looking at this color story right here, it just, to me, it's just like an array of golds and kind of like a pop palette to me right now, because everything here is just like a lot of gold. So now we're finally going to add a matte. So if you finally put a matte in here, and it's actually looks very similar to this color inside of the Celestial Divinity, almost like a mauve-y pinkish tone. Now we're starting to get like pretty interesting. Like I really honestly love this shade with the golds. And if you guys remember that shade with the golds, I mean, I do think that the Celestial Divinity kind of has a very similar color story. I mean, it's not everything here, but you've already got most of these if you have the Celestial Divinity, but I do really like these colors together. So for the next color, I jumped into this color inside the Celestial Divinity. It is a little bit more gold, so I did mix into it. I mixed into it this color right here in the Celestial Divinity, so I kind of mixed two colors together to kind of make this one perfect. It's almost just like kind of lightening up a gold that's similar to this one. And in the Celestial Divinity, I think that the colors from Pat McGrath, they just mix so good together and they kind of blend so well that you really could create that shade. So that shade right there looks very similar. I do really like this shade too. I think it's a very pretty shade. Like I said, I feel like already inside of this palette, I'm basically getting so many similarities to this. For the color story, I mean, the color story is a little bit boring because you just got gold and the pink and everything else is gold, but it's a cute idea. But so for the next one, we finally got another matte, and I'm happy that she put in some interesting mattes in here that could actually do something for these golds, including a nice little brown. I got the brown from the gold palette. I feel like this brown looked kind of similar to what I saw in the swatch. It looks just like a really rich kind of deep brown. And if you guys really look at like the gold palette has like a similar color story when it comes to like the golds and the browns. I did go with the brown inside the gold palette. I personally think this kind of brown looks so good with golds. I just think it just mixes really well. I think it's great that she put this color in here because I think it needed it. Besides just having this like lighter kind of mauvish pink color, it's really good to have this for deepening and also smoking. So right now the color story is making a little bit more sense than just all these gold shades to put on the lid. For the next one, what I did was I jumped right back into the Glam palette and I grabbed into this color right here called Brow Bone. So Brow Bone is more of like a true, really pretty champagne-ish color. It reminds me a lot of the color that she has in here. I feel like it's gonna look pretty similar. Now, I will tell you, some of these tones already, what I'm looking at is they have a difference in shade. However, when they're put on the lid, I don't know how different maybe this shade and this shade, the second shade and this shade that I just swatched right now are going to look from each other. They might actually look pretty close. Like almost like they're so close that if you put two on two different lids, it's not going to be like, wow, they look so different. So I already am starting to notice that a little bit. However, I do like the mattes that are in here so far. And the next matte that she put in is actually a really nice matte as well. So what I did was I jumped into the Huda palette, the Naughty palette, and I jumped into this color called Hypnotic. Now I think that the color in this new palette might actually be a little bit more peach than this. This might actually be a little bit browner. But when I swatched out this palette, I actually thought it was going to be more peach too. So that's why I'm thinking, you know what, maybe it's going to be very close to this color. Also think that that was a great shade to put in here. I love that it's completely different color than the mauve. I love that it's completely different than this deep brown. I don't feel like the mattes were like repetitive, and I think that we've got different shades here. We've got one that's going to give you a lot more pop, one that's going to be a little bit more neutral, and then of course your deepening shade. Okay, so then for the very last color, what I did was I jumped into the Huda palette one more time, and I jumped into this color called Flower Power. It's going to be like a very bright gold. It's a very bright gold, almost like a brow bone shade, also very, very, very bright. And that basically rounds out this palette. Now, I have a few thoughts on this. I'm going to tell you guys that I think is a very cute idea. I like the gold theme that they did because it's not like very saturated gold. She did like champagne-y golds, a little bit more elegant golds. I think that's a good way to put it. This is going to be more elegant. You're going to have like the champagne-y look, then you're going to have the deepening shades. I love the pink. I think the color story is really nice. I don't think it needed so many golds. Like I feel like within the gold range, maybe we could have had a little bit more mattes and maybe like kind of like died down some of these golds, because I do think that between some of these, they might be a little repetitive. I think like between here, you might have three shades that when you use them, you might say, ah, it's a little bit too close, at least from what I'm seeing here. Maybe we could have had two more mattes, gotten rid of two of the metallics here that were gold, and maybe we could have even had like a mustard or something like that. We could have had a really deep mauve in here or a very deep purple and really change this up a little bit so it still would be within this gold idea, but maybe just had just a little bit more usefulness, because I do think that some of the metallics might be a little repetitive. So that's just my opinion based off what I'm seeing in the swatches. Of course, it could be a little different in real life, but I've noticed lately that when I look at these swatches, they're pretty close. Like usually I kind of have a really good idea of what this is going to look like, and that's kind of what what I'm seeing. That's what I think of it. Now, what I would personally say is that I'm going to make up my mind and just say that even if this did come to Sephora, I personally am not going to pick it up just because I own the gold palette, for example, and I feel like the gold palette can give me a very similar idea when you look at more of the neutral golds in here with the brown. And when it comes to wanting to amp it up a little bit, what I would be doing is grabbing some of these pinks and using the pink on the lid and then just adding in some of those golds, deepening out with the brown. And I do feel like with the Celestial Divinity, I can do something very similar. Like, I can do something so close and very similar, and I feel like with the shades that I would use together, Celestial Divinity would give me those, and this one would give me that. And I've said since the beginning that I felt like Celestial Divinity would mix really good with some browns, and I do think like these two palettes put together would create a very similar vibe to this, and I already have this in my collection. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, no, I think it's kind of cute and I like the idea of it. A little bit too much repetitiveness. I think there could have been a little bit of difference with some of the golds. I think it's still cute. I just personally just don't need it because I already have two palettes that I really need to use and I really think have a very, very similar idea. And I do think that if you own those two palettes, just think about how much you use them and also whether you think that having a small version that included the brown already would just be something that would be like perfect for you. And if that's not the case, then I definitely would say maybe you want to skip out on this one if you have similar palettes to these two. I mean, obviously it doesn't have to be these two palettes. It could be any palette in your collection that has these type of similar colors. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. I think that it's a very cute palette. I think it's a little repetitive, but I personally just don't think that I need it in my collection. Let me know down below, what do you guys think? Do you guys like it? Are you guys interested in it? Are you guys hoping that it comes to the States? And of course, guys, if this ends up not even coming to the States, I honestly would just say if you guys have any of these two palettes, you kind of have a very, very similar idea. Like, I don't think it's like, I need you in my life, you know? But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. Did you guys like this palette? Are you guys interested in it? Are you picking it up? And leave me all those comments. Thanks so much for watching. Until my next Make Up Your Mind, I will talk with you guys later. Bye.